Do not quit your job. I repeat, do not quit your job. I'm all about entrepreneurship. I'm all about go ahead first. No pun intended. But I would not legitimately jump off that porch right now. I would always wait. At this point, from my experiences, I would wait at least minimum 2 to 3 years before I do so. And even at that, or with that, I would still question quitting my job. So what we're gonna do right now, I'm just gonna give you a little background about myself. The last, I guess, job, civilian job that I had, I worked at BMW, selling cars. Excellent salesman, excellent communication, built a lot of relationships, plenty of relationships. I made decent money. I had a great time. But anyone that has, been in the car business for an extended period of time understands it's a grind. Every day, morning meetings, talking about your goals, talking about how many cars you're gonna put out that particular month, how many phone calls you're gonna make, how many leads you have coming in. Every month you start from 1 sale to maybe 2 sales to 3 sales. But guess what? The next month you starting all the way over from scratch. And it's a grind. It's built for some people it's not built for. And that's very understandable. But I've done this for about, roughly 5 years, 5 to 6 years. It was actually the biggest, probably the most, I guess, lucrative career that I had, as far as, being an employee. But it gave me opportunities. I met a lot of great people. I built a lot of relationships. With that, it helped me kind of go into my own ventures. And I learned some skills. I learned how to deal with people. I understand how to communicate with people. I know how to fix problems. All those things I learned as I was in the car business. Car business has its pros and cons. Of course, it's like any other job. But I can understand how you or myself or anyone can just get tired of the same routine, the same going in, clocking out, dealing with someone else's problems. I get it. I promise you I do. But the thing that was like so punishing for me, the experiences that I had, I was at the time building my own brand, building my own, business. And, you have to take away, that energy from building your own business to providing to your employer. And I get it. It's kind of hard. So that means I worked, after hours a lot of times. Once I would get done with my 12 to 16-hour shift, you might have a 12-hour shift. You might have a 16-hour shift. But once you decide to get there, you get to work, you go on your lunch break, you get off from work, and then you might have a client or a customer call you. Like, you really, when you think about it, you work, 14 to 16 hours rather than you working a 12-hour shift or an 8-hour shift. I get it. Some of us have to commute. But with that, like, it came, when I was even off from work or not at the dealership, I was at home trying to work on something else or maybe trying to spend time with my family. But work was always a thing. Like, I never was able to pull away from work. So I can see how it might be hard for you to create your business, or it might be hard for you to do, family activities or whatever. And it's very challenging. And so you get tired of the same thing over and over again. Your boss might be frustrated. You might be getting tired of like always having to set a standard. And I get it. Like, you have to put pressure on yourself to perform. And when you're in a commission job, or let's just say you were a 1099 job, you didn't get paid by the hour. You might not get that pension or whatever the case may be. You might just get bonuses. And so I can get it. For me, I was on commission. I might get a little hourly, but at the end of the day, it's really not hourly at all. You're getting paid a commission. Whatever you kill, that's what you get. You eat what you kill. I get it. So for myself, after 5 years of that meant like my holidays really wasn't a holiday, because you provide a service to your clients. On top of that, even when you're off on that Sunday, you're really not off, because guess what? You're trying to find out and grind to get to that next client, to get that next sale, to make that next client happy, to make sure you put a sale up on the board, sales board. And then of course you're dealing with your coworkers. Your coworkers, you know, you're trying to help them out. They might be trying to help you out. But for me, I just wanted to grow. I wanted to get bigger and be more productive. And if I couldn't become, you know, be more productive and make more money, then I wanted my time back. And that's the hard thing. One thing that we don't get is time back. We do not get time back. So there was birthdays missed. It was, you know, activities missed. Like, I wanted to enjoy some time off. That wasn't a thing, really, to be honest, if you want to be successful. Like, there's a sacrifice that you give by being successful at your career. Whether you're a realtor, whether you're a pharmacist, or whatever the case may be. In order to be successful and thrive at what you do, you give up more time and you sacrifice that time. But I want to repeat again. Do not quit your job if you're trying to build a business. Do not quit your job if you're trying to create a product. Do not quit your job if you're trying to invest time in some other interests. Don't quit that job. One thing that my aunt said, and I remember this, I'll never forget it actually. She was like, nephew, how about you just take a leave of absence? At that particular time, I was just like, nah, I'm good, aunt. Like, I don't want to be there anymore. I'm tired. I'm drained. I've excelled at what I was doing. But I wanted to move in a different direction. I had my mind set on moving forward with, you know, real estate at that time. And moving on with, like, you know, I have a CDL license. So at the time I was like, you know, moving on with that. We're going to go into that. So she was like, just put a leave of absence. And I was like, no, I'm good. If we rewind or whatever the case may be, like, I probably should have took a leave of absence, an extended leave of absence maybe. The thing that really hurt more than anything when you quit your job, I personally was on commission. So my checks, my compensation was commission. It wasn't even a 1099, technically. I was an employee getting paid commission. So if you're commissioned and you've worked there for 5 years, whenever you get your tax returns, you're on commission. Let's just say you're going to try to buy a house. A lot of us try to go buy homes. We want to put our families inside of a nice, comfortable situation. When you're on commission or you're a 1099, you know, employee or whatever it has to be, guess what happens? Banks do not want to lend to you. What do they say? They say, hey, you're risky. You hadn't been in business long enough. Or let's just say your commissions can change dramatically from month to month. To be fair, my commissions really didn't change that much. They were very consistent for the time I was there. But as a bank or a lender, they don't want to lend to you. They just don't. So put that in perspective. You're trying to build a business, or you're trying to build a brand, you're trying to produce a product. You leave that job, that consistent income, the W-2 employee, you're not employed anymore. Guess what? When you try to go get funding or trying to build your brand, or whatever it may be, that lender gonna say no. Most of the time, they're gonna say no. From my experience, I can't speak for many others. I have spoken to a lot of my peers. I kind of get how it all kind of works, essentially, for the most part. But if you don't have that relationship built with that lender or that bank, which a lot of small banks are kind of going away, a lot of them have, if you check out your news or not, but a lot of small lenders are going away. So if you don't have the funding that come in from a lender and you have cut off your consistent income from that employer, it puts you in a bad spot, a really bad spot. And I don't want you making that mistake. I want to see that product that you have or that idea that you might have, but you need the income to push that product. For sure. Like that is probably the biggest mistake that I made. At the time when I left my employer, I was like, cool. I left my employer the same day. I went to a GMC dealership and I purchased a GMC 3500 dually. At that time, of course, I already had a CDL license. And at that time, guess what? It was probably 2 years before COVID, roughly. The inventory was moving. The economy was booming. I essentially bought a bunch of, or was moving a lot of generators for, different companies, air conditioning units for a lot of companies. Like I said, at that time, the market was going bananas. But if you look at our news today, there's a lot of layoffs. There are a lot of trucking companies merging. They're literally putting all of the small owner-ops out of business, essentially. Or those owner-ops are going to lease on to other companies. And guess what? You back to essentially what I call a rat race. I get it. We all don't want to necessarily have to be an employee. But I would say right now, just being an employee probably is best. And then work on whatever you're working on the other side. Or if you have enough stability financially to work on your own and operate on your own, that's fine. But until then, I would not quit my job. So at that time, like I said, the economy was kind of doing well. Freight was at an all-time high. And I was, going back and forth essentially from the West Coast to the East Coast, from the West Coast to the East Coast, going into California, coming back to the central part of the United States, going back over to California. And let me be clear. In order to get out of the West Coast at that time, you had to go from California. You was being bounced down to Arizona. You was being bounced up to Utah. You was getting bounced up to, Nevada. And then you would be in that whole triangle constantly bouncing. California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, bouncing all the way back constantly. When I wanted to come home, it was very challenging. At that particular time, I think it was the winter. The best way to get out of that particular area was coming from California, going into Colorado to get freight to come over back to south part of the region. Well, guess what? I don't like going to Colorado. I've almost probably died 2 or 3 times. I've been there in the mountains, trying to pull a load. It's snow everywhere. You got to pull up and down those mountains. I don't like it. I've had too many close calls doing that. And so I would essentially avoid Colorado and just literally leave California and come straight back home with an empty load. And I've probably done that 3 times. That costs. It costs you dearly. And anyone that's out there that drive trucks or have a CDL license or move freight or just in logistics, you might be moving people. Like, it's expensive to not have any kind of revenue coming in, and you just took a big L. So with that, I've done that for a period of time. But guess what happened? The economy shut down. The whole economy shut down. And before it shut down, I immediately started seeing how freight was like dwindling. It was dwindling really, really bad. You might be battling for some freight over here, and it would take you back up somewhere where you wasn't making any money. So if you're not making any money to move that freight, it wasn't even worth getting it. So I just came on back home. And before I knew it, guess what? If I didn't have my rental properties at that time working out for me, I'd have been in trouble. Completely big trouble. And that's when that happened, guess what? We had this pandemic going on. When that pandemic came around, if you look at it now, that has changed the whole dynamic of trucking, like big time. It was very painful. I'm an owner operator. I was the owner operator at that time. It was not good. So if I don't say anything else, like I wanted to like keep it fairly short, but for you entrepreneurs, for you business owners, um, I know what it is to be, tight financially. Like you're trying to survive. You have credit cards at an all-time high. You know, it's hard out here right now, essentially. It's going to get probably a little bit more challenging. But what I want you to do is to think about and position yourself to not set yourself up for failure. And right now, if you have a job, you might hate it. You might really dislike it. It might really bother you. It might be very frustrating. You might not get a raise for a little while. But keep that job. So considering lenders are pulling back, it's a little bit more challenging. And again, like with that business, start building that business credit. Make sure that's solid. Make sure your personal credit score is solid. Make sure those things are in order. Make sure you have charge accounts set up. Make sure all these things are set up so when you do decide to pull away, you do have some kind of stability to not get jammed up the way many of us do. And take some advice from somebody that, have done it and that has been there. I've experienced a lot. Hopefully on this channel, this small channel that we have here, it grows and maybe we can reach more people. But right now, do not quit your job. I will go into some details about like specifically what occurred, what happened. But when you leave your job, you have to stand on your own 2 feet. And with that, you need credit, you need income. And if you don't have income that's consistent that the bank want to lend to you, then you got to go find an investor or you have to find someone that believe in what you're trying to do. And then on top of that, you have to perform. So that's all I have for today. I really appreciate, the subscriptions. I really appreciate it, the watch time. I'm hoping that I can reach out and gather more feedback from you all. Who like it, what you don't like, what can I discuss even more. And I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Have a blessed day. So we actually got news from the Federal Trade Commission that they will be beginning on January the 14th. Gym memberships and subscriptions are required to do a one-click cancel on subscriptions going forward. This is a big deal, mainly because I know that I've been a victim of whenever I'm trying to get rid of a subscription, I have to jump through hoops. You might go down to the bottom of an email or a bottom of a thread in the email, and when you try to unsubscribe, they say you're unsubscribed, but then also they have you to check a box, or let's just say it been times where I've had subscriptions and then I wasn't able to get out of the subscription, and then like later on I check my my bank account or my bank statement, and like I still don't have the subscription taken care of. I've also seen in many situations where if you want to get rid of a subscription, they require you to call them. So I don't know if it's just me or if it's like about the last 2 to 3 years when you try to call an entity or a business to get something taken care of. You go through this consistent loop of automated systems, which make it very challenging to get rid of those subscriptions, and it's very frustrating. I can imagine how frustrating it is for myself, so I know it's frustrating for many others. And I think it's really good that the Federal Trade Commission has put in some regulations to require these gym memberships and these subscriptions to be taken care of. The other benefit that comes with this is that there are certain platforms, or I guess say platform services, that allow us as consumers to use them and put all of the subscriptions within
the app and connect everything, and is able to get rid of some subscriptions as well. And I forgot exactly what service that is, but I think I'll look into that. I just know that I didn't necessarily like, when you have, subscriptions, whether it's YouTube or YouTube TV, or it might be Netflix, or it might be Disney Plus. Like, and then of course you got gym memberships, or let's just say you have all these different services that require memberships. When you really think about it as a consumer, you might have 10 to 15 subscriptions that you don't even pay attention to because they automatically getting drafted out. And then that comes down to you, like, if it's $10 a month over the next 12 months out of the year, like, that adds up. But not only do you have one subscription, you might have 3 to 4 subscriptions. So when it pile up, it's like compound interest. Like, you're really getting punished by the subscriptions. And we as individuals, we don't necessarily take the time out to go through our financials sometimes and, like, get rid of subscriptions. But once you go down, you be like, man, I look at my stuff and be like, I thought I got rid of that subscription, or I realized that I hadn't got rid of that service or whatever. So that's definitely something that we should definitely look into. It is a win for the consumer, for sure, because, like, a lot of times we don't even use these services, or and then after you're paying for them. So don't get me wrong, this is a capitalist society. Of course, if you want to make money and you have a subscription, I guess it's a benefit on the other side as a entrepreneur or a business owner. But for the consumer, and then for the idea that, let's just say, you might be taking advantage of people that may not necessarily know how to get rid of the subscription. That's a whole other thing. People hitting buttons and subscribing, which I want to ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, please, and thank you. I could actually use that, but I at the same time, if when you hit that subscribe button, it's like you may not pay attention to it, or you just you don't think nothing of it. And so I could, like, for example, my son sometimes have my phone, or my daughter might have a phone of mine, or whatever, and they decide to purchase something or hit subscribe. Or you got, I mean, I have an Android, so if in the Play Store, like, they could easily hit a button and purchase something that I didn't necessarily authorize them to purchase. But at the same time, like, of course, there's levels to it, to where you have to approve it. But, like, this is like legitimate concerns and issues for consumers. So I hope that this information I just want to get to the community, and really appreciate you all coming and checking us out. And I'll be updating you on some more news later.